Erstmal herzlich willkommen in Berlin, Mr. Marcus Harris. Und bevor wir Oliver Rohrbeck, Ihren deutschen Synchronsprecher, treffen, wollen wir uns natürlich mit Ihnen unterhalten über Sie und Ihre Serie. Und zuerst eine Frage, waren Sie schon mal in Deutschland oder in Berlin?
Well, never in Berlin, but I've been to Germany a few times. We've got a lot of fans of the series in Germany, and I've been invited over a couple of times to have dinners and to attend various conventions. And of course, I've been over to Germany on business a number of times as well. But no, this is my first time in Berlin, and it looks fabulous. A great city.
Hätten Sie geglaubt, dass die Famous Five von 1978 nach über 30 Jahren so ein Kult sind und so noch so geliebt werden?
It's just phenomenal. When I knew I'd got the part 33 years ago now, it was amazing. And my agent said to me, because she came to see me at the house and sat me down and said, "I've got some news for you. You've got the part," and it was the most amazing experience. And she said to me then, she said, "You've got to realise that this will change your life." And at 12 years old or 13 years old, you think, "Oh, change my life, you know, what can that mean?" But yeah, unbelievably changed my life. It was something I did for 2 years when I was 13 and 14. And I'm still finding just great people coming up to me of all ages, from teenagers and young children through to octogenarians who just love the series and just want to talk about it and find out about it. So for something that, as I said, I did when I was a child, to still be with me and still be so active and so loved by me and so enjoyed by me after all these years as well as others, it's just amazing, fantastic.
Kannten Sie die Bücher von Enid Blyton, bevor Sie gedreht haben? Diese Kinderbücher?
Yeah, I was a great fan of the Filmfreundes for many years, and I remember sitting in a car park and reading Five Go on a Hike together just before I knew that I was going up for the auditions. And when I heard I'd got the audition for it, it was so exciting reading the book, and because I had read all the books before I even went to the very first audition, so I was a great Famous Five fan. And I think most children they go through that phase of just loving it, and I was exactly the same. So yeah, I was a great fan.
Dann zum Film von 77 wurde zum Drehen angefangen. Gab es ein Casting? Und die Serie wurde ja mit Nachwuchsdarstellern, sage ich jetzt mal, oder fast bekannten Darstellern besetzt. Also mit Ihnen, mit Gary Russell als Dick, mit Jennifer Tannish als Anne, mit Michelle Gallagher als George. Wie wurde diese Endauswahl getroffen und wie viele waren eigentlich beim Casting, um sich für die Rollen vorzustellen? Wie war das am Anfang?
Right, yeah. Jennifer was probably the most experienced of all of us. She had done something on The Sweeney. She'd played Jack Regan's daughter on a series called The Sweeney. She had also played Lorna Doone and a few other things. Gary had been in The Phoenix and the Carpet, and I was so impressed when I first met Gary. He was a proper TV star. He'd been on a series that I'd watched, and it was very, very impressive. I had no television experience at the time. I was very fresh to it, as did Michelle. When we started the process, there was something like 6,000 children that went up for audition. Now, I'd been to lots and lots of auditions and for adverts and different things, and I'd got nowhere, and I'd not got callbacks or anything. So on this particular occasion, I sat down and in the casting, the first casting, there was a child in there that was being very loud and being very boisterous, and I thought to myself, is this the way that you do it? Is this what you've got to do to get a part? So when we finished, I followed the director out into the corridor, and I just took him to one side and I said, "Can you tell me, is this what I have to do? Do I have to be loud and naughty in order to get a part in a television series like this?" And he just absolutely died laughing. He was hysterical with laughter that I'd had the audacity to come up and ask this question. I later realised that it was that one thing that I did completely unconsciously that made him remember me, so that I made it through those early casting sets, through the 6,000 till it whittled down. Then as we got through the stages and we got down to the much smaller numbers, they proved that we could all act, and they were happy with that. What they then needed to do was look at the family grouping and how do they pull the Kirin family together and make us cohesive as a believable as a unit. So initially, Gary will tell the story that before I knew that I had the part of Julian, they had him in mind for the part of Julian, and another friend of his, also called Marcus, to play the part of Dick. Mm-hmm. Then they saw me, and they just thought, yeah, this guy looks like a Julian, and that Gary looks more like a Dick. And he was delighted by that, because he didn't really want to play the part of Julian. Well, he would, but he would have preferred and did prefer playing the part of Dick, because he felt it was a lot of a cheekier character. And for my part, I loved being the leader of the group, and that played to my natural characteristics. So they started pulling our little family group together, and I think they got Gary, myself, and Jennifer first as the Kirin family, and then they cast Michelle latterly as our cousin George, and that was the process, and it was amazing. It was about 5 or 6 days off school to go up to London to go to the auditions. Fabulous experience.
Okay. Da die Frage, ich glaube, Michelle Gallagher, für die sollte am Anfang eine deutsche Schauspielerin eingesetzt werden, ein deutsches Mädchen. Kam sie zum Schluss dazu?
She was chosen because she was a great actress. She really was very, very talented. So she was chosen because she looked right and because she was an actress. I think because Fünf Fiends was part financed by Germany and part in England, that there was a desire to have Michael Hinds and Rogers the gardener as main characters in it that were German, and also I think the fact that Michelle was half German was a great bonus, and so I think yes, it was a bonus, but she was absolutely selected because of her great talent and because she looked right for the part of George, and she always is. In my mind, she was the classic George that I would ever have imagined from the books.
Absolut.
Warum versteckst du dich? Wir haben dich überall gesucht. Was ist? Kommst du nicht mit? Wohin denn? Na, zur Farm. Wir wollen noch den Geheimgang suchen.
Kommt er auch mit?
Wer?
Wer schon? Mr. Rowland? Ja, er wollte drüben auf uns warten.
Ich kann nicht mitkommen. Ich habe Timmy versprochen, mit ihm spazieren zu gehen. Ich wünsche euch viel Vergnügen mit eurem Mr. Rowland.
Sie waren zu dieser Zeit 13, Gary Russell war 14, Jennifer Tannish 13. Bei George weiß ich nicht genau. Ich glaube, sie waren von den Vieren der Jüngste gewesen. Nicht der Älteste, sondern der Jüngste. Wie geht man damit auch als Schauspieler mit den anderen Kindern um, jetzt den Ältesten zu spielen?
Well, I wasn't the youngest. I think Jennifer was younger than me, but I was certainly the second youngest, which was always the thing that I was the tallest, and I played the eldest, and I played Julian, the leader of the Famous Five, who was supposed to be the eldest, so I guess I just looked old for my years.
Dann gab es ja durch die Produktionsfirma 2 deutsche Schauspieler, die mitgespielt haben. Michael Hinz als Onkel Quentin und Friedrich von Thun als Rogers. Welche Erinnerungen haben Sie bei dem Part und wie kamen diese Deutschen in dieser Serie überhaupt zurecht?
I don't think we really thought that they were German actors or English actors. We were all just part of the team, and I mean Michael Hinds especially, who I know has passed away now. But Michael was just such an amazing actor. I mean, and so was the other guy. But we didn't think, Michael's German and he's a German Uncle Quentin. And in fact, now when I read the books and when I read the books to my little boy, I read Uncle Quentin in a German accent, because to me Uncle Quentin is now a German, and it just stays, and I think that's probably true for an awful lot of people who watch the Famous Five without any previous voicing of the Quentin character. It was Michael Hinds' voice that people take, believe and love as that character.
Jetzt begannen die Dreharbeiten und wie ist das jetzt, wenn man ihr vier von den Eltern erstmal getrennt wart, oder waren die Eltern bei den Dreharbeiten dabei gewesen?
No, it was without parents. So when you talk about children leaving home today to go to university at 18, 19, 20, that's what I did at age 13. And I never for 1 minute thought, well, this is strange, I'm leaving home. And yes, there were moments of homesickness, but it was just such an exciting place to be. And also, we were a family. We were our own little family. And whilst I love my mum and dad and my brother to little pieces,
Yes.
the fact that I had a family with me there, and because every morning I was getting up and having a mini adventure and doing these fantastic, exciting things, I didn't get time to feel lonely or sad. I mean, my mum and dad came to visit me on a few occasions, and of course I went home every weekend. But my dad used to complain that when he used to collect me from the station on a Friday evening, and it used to take all the way through Friday night and halfway through Saturday for me to calm down and wind down from the excitement of it. Then you get to Sunday and I'm starting to wind up again. So he reckoned that we got sort of Saturday night of a bit of sanity out of me for that particular period, because I was so excited coming off it and so excited going back to it again.
Ah, gut. Auch noch ein Hauptdarsteller, klar, einer von den 5 Freunden war der Hund Timmy, der ja sogar einen Künstlernamen hatte, Toddy Woodgate. Und wie waren die Späße mit ihm gewesen, oder war er wirklich so diszipliniert mit seinem Herrn und Trainer?
He was probably the most experienced actor of us all, and it was great working with Toddy. Was fantastic so long as you had a sausage in your pocket, and everything you needed Toddy to do was bribed through sausages. So it's, come on, here Timmy, come on, here Timmy. And it's like, you sneak a sausage out. And there you go, there's your sausage. But I mean, for a dog to be able to play dead like he did, he was never drugged or whatever. It was simply, Ben used to say to him, Toddy, down. And he wouldn't move. And he was just amazing, the way that you can see it in some of the episodes where he's drugged and he's just laying there like this. Absolutely fantastic. How do you get a dog to do all those great things? But of course, it wasn't just dogs. I mean, Timmy was our dog, and subconsciously, I suspect, I've actually got a dog now who's just like Timmy. And in fact, I think you've got a clip of the Meridian TV interview that I did with Jennifer recently, and in there you might just see my dog, because I brought him along so that they could show him as the sort of a Timmy replacement. So I love that breed. I love Toddy. I have a dog of my own called Kerwin now who's very similar. But it was all the other animals that we worked with as well. Elephants, monkeys,
yes.
Snakes.
Yes.
All of these things that most people don't even get to see in zoos. You're lucky if you get to see all these things in zoos close up. And we were stroking them and sitting on their backs and holding snakes and so many things. Such an amazing experience.
Bei Timmy oder Toddy, es gibt 2 Szenen, die etwas aus der Situation herausstechen. Das eine Mal, ich habe niemals gesehen, dass bei einer Fahrradtour die 5 Freunde fahren und Toddy sitzt auf dem Gepäckträger.
Ich bin Anne, das ist Julian, Dick und das ist George. Oh, und das ist Timmy.
Bist du sicher, dass deine Mutter nichts dagegen hat? Klar. Sie ruft meine Tante an, damit sie weiß, dass ich komme. Warum fahren wir nicht endlich?
Das ist das eine Mal. Und das zweite Mal, wie er in einen Tunnel abgeseilt wird von euch. Und das merkt man richtig, er scheint Angst zu haben.
Hör auf, dumme Sprüche zu machen. Lass ihn runter.
Ich habe das Gefühl, Timmy findet das gar nicht komisch.
Was glaubt ihr, wie der sich freut, wenn er wieder hier oben ist?
Gut festbinden! Der arme Kerl tut mir leid.
Only 2 funny episodes. I think there was a few more. Yeah, he used to have to do all sorts of things and never complained. And he never had to do 2 takes with Toddy. He would just do these things. And I do remember him having the rope and being lowered. I'm not sure I remember the bicycle, but there were so many things we did that whenever I'm standing whenever I'm talking with Gary and Jennifer and Gail Renard, one of the writers, and we're sharing stories, we're always remembering more things that we did, and And even some of the naughty stuff that we did, which I remember one particular evening in the house, because they gave us this fabulous house called Gatewood, and that was where we lived in the second year of filming, and it was this amazing 7-bedroomed farmhouse set in acres of land in Exbury where we filmed it. So we had Michelle and Jennifer had the top floor, and Gary and I had 2 of the big rooms, and then we had the chaperone, and we had a cook called Celia who used to look after us, and we were just this happy family group. And whenever the guest stars came to work with us, they would always stay in one of the bedrooms next to me, and we used to just it was just so much fun living with that group of children in that environment. And we had our laughs. I do remember Michelle, I think, who started the fire extinguisher fight. I don't suggest you do this at home, but we found fire extinguishers, and we had this sort of party with fire extinguisher firing, and then another time, of course, we had our fights, and Michelle and I were always very spirited characters. So over the dinner table, we got into this big heated dispute at one point. And I think I must have said something to upset Michelle, because she picked up the whole bowl of spaghetti bolognese and tipped it all over my head. That was the end of our dinner. That was our end of our dinner for that particular evening. So, lots of funny times, both on camera and off camera. Toddy, Timmy, was very much part of our lives as well. He didn't actually stay in the same place as us, but we were regularly filming in Gatewood as well, which you'll see as the internal of Kieran Cottage a lot of times in Series 2.
Sie sprechen so viele Sachen an. Ich muss jetzt erstmal nachkommen. Also auch das mit den verschiedenen Gaststars, mit den Kindern. Auch nochmal zu den Drehorten. Also praktisch in New Forest, Hampshire, Christchurch, Dorset, ist dann da immer von Ort zu Ort gezogen, wie ein Wanderzirkus mit dem Hotel, mit der ganzen Gruppe. Und war es für Sie das erste Mal, dass Sie diese wunderschönen Landschaften gesehen haben?
Wie weit ist es noch, Julian?
Vielleicht noch eine Meile. Vom Bahnhof aus sind wir ungefähr 5 Meilen gefahren.
Ist ja nicht zu glauben. Endlich geht's mal bergab.
Ist ja irre schön hier, was?
Ja.
Ja, und eine tolle Luft.
Oh. Guck doch mal das Meer. Das da drüben ist bestimmt Karen Island.
Ja, müsste es eigentlich.
We went to some amazing places, and mainly we filmed in Exbury. And all these fabulous caves that you see, and the internal of tunnels and whatever, were all plastic and filmed in the basement. I'm sorry to upset any of the fans out there who thought we were in real caves, but they were all plastic, but they were permanent. So we used to go down to the cellars, and there were these amazing cave systems where they used to create blockages and polystyrene rocks and all this sort of thing that we had to go through.
Sei vorsichtig, Dick. Die Höhlen werden hier sehr niedrig.
Hey, Julian. Ich hab Angst.
Soll ich dir mal sagen, wer noch?
But then we would very often go out, and it was very exciting to then go out on location and film away, especially down at the seaside. And we went, of course, to the seaside on a number of occasions and working with the boats and things. I remember going on five on a hike, I think, which was the one where we were on the raft, which was probably my favourite, and I know Gary said it's his favourite as well, partly because it was such a gloriously hot week that week, and we spent most of our week in our swimming things on a raft in the middle of the water, looking for dirty... I've got the name. Mary and... I'm sure somebody will help me out with the names here at some point, but, all those different things that we did. So, yes, we went there. I remember we went to Dorset on a couple of occasions, and we always used to travel around in the minibus. And George used to drive us around in the minibus, and George was absolutely fabulous. Now, I'm not naturally a great singer. I think I'm all right. My wife says I'm not such a great singer, but there you go. But we used to love singing Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen.
Yes.
So we'd all get in the car.
Yes, in this time, yeah.
Yeah. And that was our song. So we used to get in there in the minibus in the morning,
Yes.
big gold minibus, which also you can see it in some of the episodes. I think it was a circus episode where it had things on it, decals on it, and whatever. And we used to get in the back of the bus and it's, I'm just a poor boy, nobody loves me. And we used to just sing this with great gusto. And then eventually I'd probably get too gusty and they'd tell me to be quiet because I'm being too loud and out of tune. But so the minibus was great, and we used to pile out of that. And then of course we'd do a round robin to pick up all of the grown-up actors that were picked up from the local pub. So we got to stay in a farmhouse, they got to stay in a pub, which I understand was quite entertaining.
Während der Serie, ich habe den Eindruck gehabt, wenn man die vielen Folgen sieht, dass es sehr oft geregnet hat. Das ist das eine, auch dieses typische Tee trinken dann immer dazu. Die zweite Sache, wie oft wurde außen gedreht oder wie Sie schon sagten, die ganzen Tunnel und Höhlen, sehr viele waren Studioaufnahmen, und wie viel wurde im Studio gedreht?
It's funny you mention raining, because I don't remember it raining much. I mean, it must have rained because we filmed for 2 years. It must have rained, but I wonder perhaps we were just filming inside, and maybe that's how it was arranged, that if they knew it was going to rain, we filmed inside. I remember quite the contrary. I remember the summer of '79 was just a blazing summer, and in fact quite the reverse, because I went home, and when you're in something like this, there's continuity, and continuity is you film one scene one day, which is a piece of action indoors. You then go out of the door and you walk outside, and for the viewer that shot just follows on, and it's a fraction of a second. But for us, it could be the following week that we filmed the scene of actually coming out of the door and going down the road. Now, this particular weekend, I went home and it was a glorious summer, and my dad had just got a big swimming pool in the garden. So I sort of was in my swimming costume swimming, and I went back and I was red as a beetroot with horrible sun, and everybody had an absolute... This was on Five and a Hike, so you might notice a slight change of colour in my face between one shot and the next shot, because I'd completely changed my colour over that weekend. I'd also got horrible sunburn on my shoulders, and I had this huge, great rucksack. And I had to, and they made it heavy as well to punish me for I think anyway, to punish me for having got sunburnt, and so I had to put this huge great thing on top of this big coat, because we had to pretend it was quite cold, and it was like, oh, painful.
So, Timmy, du kriegst gleich was zu trinken. Guten Tag. Guten Tag, wir sind die Karen.
You also mentioned earlier on about the night filming, and Carl and I sort of shared a little joke about that, because we never ever filmed at night. There's lots of night shots, and this particular thing, I can't remember whether it was when I was wearing the rucksack that time, but so often we would be dressed up in big coats and big jumpers, and it would look like it was middle of the night, but in reality, it was just a dark shot during the daytime. So it was all filmed in daytime. So it could be boiling hot, and we had to be there with torches, maybe in our dressing gowns, but very often in heavy clothing, in bright sunshine. So yeah, and again, the tunnels and the caves, they were plastic, very realistic plastic, but they were all in the cellars, and it became our caves. As I said to you earlier on, the adventures that Gary, myself, Jennifer, Michelle and Toddy had were different to the adventures the Famous Five had, but they were amazing adventures. Every day we'd wake up and it was another adventure. Brilliant fun.
Oh Gott. Die Gaststars. Also eigentlich ist in jeder Episode ist ja ein oder zwei neue Kinder hinzugekommen, die ja nur einmal mitgespielt haben. Wie hat man sich denen gegenüber verhalten, oder waren die dann stolz, einmal dabei zu sein? Und dann gab es natürlich noch eine Menge an wirklich renommierten großen Schauspielern, die oft im späteren Alter dann auch mitgespielt haben. Wen kennen Sie davon noch?
Du liebe Güte, wo kommen denn diese vielen Kinder her? Oh, eine junge Dame ist auch dabei. Guten Tag, mein Fräulein.
Das sind meine Freunde. Sie wollen eine Weile bei uns zelten. Mr. Gringle gehört die Schmetterlingsfarm. Er und sein Freund Mr. Brent züchten Schmetterlinge.
Schon vor mir. Amerikanischer Altertumsforscher entdeckt seit Jahrhunderten verschollenes Schloss. Er gräbt einen Keller aus und was findet er? Gold.
Und niemand weiß, wann die Geisterzüge kommen. Und jetzt verschwindet ihr.
Wie ist das Wertebefinden? Sie erinnern sich doch noch an uns. Ja, ganz bestimmt. Ich bin der genialste Zirkusdirektor der Welt.
We used to get on famously with all of them. And in fact, at the last Enid Blyton Day in Twyford, Julie Davis, who was in Five Go Adventuring Again, she came along and we were all up on the podium together. And it was just like old times, and she just fitted in with the team. And I think that was what happened. Whenever the guest stars arrived, they became part of our family for that period of time. And a lot of them were with us for 2 weeks, and of course they usually had neighbouring bedrooms to mine, so very often we could shout through the doors, and they were just other children coming to play in our family for a period of time, and they all fitted in brilliantly. And I mean, we were just so lucky to have such amazing talent, both in the adults and also in the children. And you know, Rupert Graves was one of the guest stars. I mean, he's gone on to do things a little bit more exciting now, but he was. I think he played the part of Sooty actually in Smuggler's Top. That may not be right, but you'll cut it if it's not. So yeah, it was great. I can't think of any of the guest stars that we didn't get on well with. I can't think of any of them that set themselves apart, or certainly that we ever, there was nobody that was apart from the group when they came to film with us.
So viele Stars sind auch aus der Serie gewesen, The Avengers, praktisch die mitgespielt haben, oder aus den Agatha Christie Filmen bis Margaret Rutherford, James Wallace, oder auch aus James Bond Filmen sogar. Hat man zu der Zeit oder als Kinder hat man gewusst, dass sie schon oder Schauspieler, die meinetwegen an die 100 bis 200 Filmrollen hatten, George Innes, John Sharp, Circus Director, so viele, die war man sich als Kind bewusst, dass das große Leute waren, die jetzt noch einen Klamauk spielten.
Kennen wir uns nicht von irgendwoher?
Manchester Piccadilly Station, Dienstag, den 22. September 1974, und zwar um 3:30 Uhr.
In den Gästezimmern natürlich, wo sonst?
Guten Tag, Kinder. Was ist mit dir los, Sooty? Willst du mich nicht mit deinen Freunden bekannt machen?
Ich hoffe, ihr amüsiert euch hier gut.
Yeah, well, I mean, no, I mean, when we worked with Rupert, he was just another one. It was just another kid with us, and there was, I mean, he was obviously very talented, but there was nothing that was going to say he was going to become the Hollywood star that he's latterly become. And I did bump into him once at a Madonna concert, and just sort of said hi very quickly. I'm not sure whether he remembered me, but he has referred to the Famous Five in his book, I think, and other bits and pieces. But, Patrick Troutman and James Villiers, you mentioned, the amount of people that we worked with, that when you're 13 and 14, at least for me, Gary was always, he always was very aware of the people we were working with. I was just a little bit so enjoying the whole adventure and the whole story that I wasn't as aware of the amazing people. What I was aware of was amazing actors. I wasn't aware that they were famous or that they may get famous, just that they delivered what they had to deliver brilliantly. And it just always felt right. And I think that's the thing about acting. If you can feel it, if you can be in it, and if you can and live it, then it looks natural and it works. And those actors were so good that they created an environment where you felt in it. And if someone was grabbing you and was holding you by the scruff of the neck, then you were frightened. And if they had a gun, then it was like, whoa, it felt right. And that, I think, was the magic of what all these amazing actors and actresses did. But for years afterwards, I watched television series and EastEnders, and there was a character called Ethel in EastEnders. We worked with her, and I looked and I saw her, and I think, I know you, I've worked with you. And so it's less that I was thinking about it at the time, and more that as the years have gone by, I've just thought, oh yes, I worked with you, and I worked with you. And who knows, to have attracted such a huge pool of amazing talent from Germany and from England, perhaps that's part of the reason why people still love watching the DVDs and still love the new DVDs. I hope they'll love watching, but they've loved the videos and and the shows originally.
Ich finde eine Herausforderung, es gab in der Serie 7 verschiedene Regisseure. Zwar einen Hauptregisseur, den Peter Duffel, aber dieses ständige Wechseln vom Filmdirektor, das ständige Wechseln, wo man sagt, die Kinder, also gerade in dem Alter muss man sich immer wieder umstellen. Wie kann man mit den vielen verschiedenen Regisseuren zurecht, die zum Schluss dann auch noch zu dritt zusammengearbeitet haben?
For me, it was the first thing I'd ever done, and so as far as I was concerned, that was how you did it. It never fazed me. Again, everybody that we worked with really knew their stuff, and I don't know why we had so many directors actually, but I think actually I've worked on Midsomer Murders since then, and they have different directors for different episodes, so maybe it's something that happens more often in the UK. The thing that I didn't realise at the time was the pressure of the work that we did. Apparently we filmed as fast as the Sweeney were filming, and they were known to be filmed very, very fast. It was long days, it was hard work, and there was an expectation that you did it in a couple of takes if you could, without sacrificing any of the quality. And I think the end result has stood the test of time. But we worked very hard, and that was possibly why we had sort of change of directors, because it was needed that fresh energy to keep pushing it along each episode. But no, it never worried me as a child. I didn't mind who I was working with.
Was mich noch erstaunt hat, ist, dass in der Serie, sie ist geschrieben worden, also praktisch Enid Blyton schrieb die Bücher 1942 bis 1963 in diesem Rahmen. Und der Respekt und die Strenge von Erwachsenen zu Kindern, die war da in einem ganz anderen Verhältnis, die 1978 gar nicht mehr da war. Wie kommt man damit zurecht, dass man sagt, oh, die Eltern alle sind dem Roman entsprechend so streng? Man hatte mehr Respekt vor Erwachsenen.
Werdet ihr hier wohl verschwinden? Mein Sohn will nicht, dass Fremde hier rumlungern.
Aber soviel ich weiß, gehört das Haus Mr. Gringle.
Ihr sollt verschwinden. Los, weg mit euch. Wenn ihr euch hier findet, könnt ihr was erleben.
Kommt mit.
Guten Morgen, George. Darf ich fragen, was du in meinem Arbeitszimmer zu suchen hast? George? Wer ist hierfür verantwortlich, du oder wer sonst?
Nein, ich war's nicht. Glaub mir.
Na gut. Du kannst gehen.
Yeah, I think probably it did in the series. What the producer James Gatwood set out to do was to bring the famous five at the time up to date. So at the time, late 1970s, bang up to date, modern, fresh. And I think that worked, and it's worked more in retrospect because of the 1970s feel now is just so popular, and a lot of people like to look back and reminisce. But yes, there was no, I don't think I ever said lashings of ginger beer, although it's haunted me for the rest of my life. Every time I go down the pub, someone shouts out, lashings of ginger beer, or someone sings, we are the famous five. And then so many people, of course, say, and which one did you play then? Did you play the part of Timmy? So the lashings of ginger beer and that sort of language went, and it was more modern language. Now, latterly, the books have just gone through yet another makeover, because there are words these days that children don't associate with. You know, the use of the word gay to talk about a happy occasion is not what modern children associate it with. And there are words that are perhaps not as acceptable as they were back in Enid Blyton's day. So what Enid Blyton did was wrote some amazing stories for children of the 40s and the 50s. Their sheer weight of popularity has carried them on through the years. In the 70s, we revised the language and the approach. And now in 2010, the books have just been re-revised again so that they are not sanitised, but recreated for a new audience so that they are chiming with the younger generation. Some people like it, some people don't, same as with the series. But you're right, there wasn't the sort of the hard disciplinarian approach to that parent-child thing in the Famous Five. Yes. Oh, the television version anyway.
Es wurden ja keine weiteren Folgen gedreht bzw. produziert. Und warum habt eigentlich alle ihr 4 bei der Serie oder praktisch nur als Schauspieler nicht groß weitergemacht? War das mehr eine Feriengeschichte gewesen, die man damit abgeschlossen hat als eine schöne Zeit?
Very interesting question, and I think we all have gone on to do different things in different ways. I mean, Gary is very involved with Doctor Who and the Sarah Jane Adventures. Jennifer has the life that you would have always imagined for Anne. She sort of lives in a beautiful cottage. She's got a fantastic family. She is the adult version that you would expect Anne to have grown into. For my own part, we finished the Famous Five. It had been 2 years, and it had been the most amazing experience. It had also been arguably the best thing that I could have done as a child actor. I didn't feel that there was any experience as a child actor that I could do that would have topped that. And I must admit, I got back to school at age 15, and having missed 2 years of school, because they gave us a tutor, but the tutor was very easy to avoid. So I spent most of my time avoiding the tutor and being on set, so I effectively missed 2 years worth of schooling. So when I got back to school age 15, I thought, I've got to focus on my education now for a couple of years. And then really the advice generally, and I think it's very, very good advice to all actors, it's learn to do something else as well, because acting is a very hit and miss career. So I went off and got a proper job, and I moved into sales, and I developed a business, and then I sold the business back in 2007 and went back into, which was always my intention, went back into acting, back into presenting, and I'm now back. I've done a few adverts and a documentary, looking for opportunities if anybody wants to hire me out there. You know, so I'm back doing the acting, I'm back doing the presenting. I'm a presenter on QVC, the shopping channel in the UK. So arguably, I never went away because I've always worked on stage, but I've not. I'm only now moving back into the television and the presenting and other bits and pieces. So, yeah, it was odd that none of us went on to do significant television careers. But I think in those days, child actors tended to do that. You tended to be a child actor and then not make the leap into adult acting. I think it's only now, with the Harry Potter cast and lights, that they're making the transition because they grow up on screen. And if you grow up on screen, then you move straight into the adult piece.
Wie gesagt, Sie sind verschiedene Wege gegangen. Wie gut ist Ihr Kontakt heute noch zu den noch 2 Lebenden, also praktisch zu Gary Russell und Jennifer Tange? Und was mich etwas berührt hat, dass der Hund Timmy oder Toddy fast nach der 2. Staffel gestorben ist.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, he died of throat cancer. Yeah, he was very old when he was
10
filming.
years.
10 years. Yeah. I don't think he died straight after the series. I think he was around for a little bit, but no, he died of throat cancer, unfortunately, and it was very, very sad. But unfortunately, that happens. So, yeah, Timmy is no more. But then after 32 years, he's very unlikely to have been here now anyway. So.
But he's always a good dog in the film when you look at him. Always Timmy is living.
Timmy, was fällt dir ein? Du kriegst sofort wieder Hausverbot.
Ich glaube, ein Brötchen hat er sich verdient. Und was esst ihr jetzt?
Ich habe mal gehört, es gab die Information, Sie hätten auch mal die Queen getroffen. War das ein besonderes Ereignis? Was ist da passiert?
Oh, well, I met the Queen twice, actually. Once on a formal occasion when I was a couple of years before the Famous Five, actually. For some reason, the Queen came to visit the village I lived in called Raysbury. I think because we'd just become part of Royal Berkshire, and I think she came along. And in fact, my mum and dad gave me the commemorative mug bag the other day that they've kept in their cupboard all this time. So I actually met the Queen and shook her hand and said something to her, which I can't remember. But then latterly, and I was talking to somebody about this earlier on today. I was at Royal Ascot with some friends, just normally in the stands watching it, and I happened to wander into the main building and noticed that the royal enclosure, the man who was guarding the security, he wandered away for a second. So I took my opportunity to scarper up the stairs, and I managed to make my way into where the Queen was, and I got within, you can't see the distance here, but between there and that office, away from the Queen. And so I wandered around in the royal enclosure for a little bit, and I drank a glass of champagne that was offered to me, and I went to the window, waved to my friends, the regal wave, and then went. So, but I tend to like a challenge where we're getting into places. I was at a music festival over the weekend. I'm hoping to present there next year, actually, the Rewind Festival, which is all 80s music, absolutely fantastic. And I managed to find my way backstage to meet Boy George and Rick Astley and just a few people like that. And I sort of enjoyed the challenge of going places that perhaps I'm not supposed to go. So to say, next year I'm talking to the organisers about having a small presenting slot at the Rewind Festival. So if anybody wants to see me, come to Rewind Festival in Henley, and there I'll be.
Look, we do this.